G'day, mate. Come on in. Shake that snow off your gear first, yeah? It's absolutely howling out there tonight. Reckon the storm's getting a bit fierce. Hearing that wind scream outside reminds me of sharp blades slicing through the air. Life out there. It's a bit of a battlefield, isn't it? Sometimes we get roped into scraps we never asked for. We face aggro blokes, massive dramas, and sometimes we feel a bit small, like we haven't got a leg to stand on. But here's the thing, mate. To beat a wild beast, you don't always need sharper claws than him. You just need something else, something quieter. Park yourself here, warm your mitts by the fire. I want to spin you a yarn about a bloke who never held a sword in his life, but managed to defeat a legendary assassin just by having a cup of tea in his mind. This story takes us way back to feudal Japan, in the city of Edo. Bustling place, but dodgy as hell. Back then, there was this old tea master. He was a tiny bloke, skinny arms, hands that had never touched a weapon. His whole life was just about the way of tea. He found the whole universe just in the quiet moments of brewing a cuppa. One day, his lord, the big boss, had business in the city and dragged the old bloke along. The lord was worried about his safety, so he barked an order. The city's a madhouse. You can't walk around in your monk robes. Tog up like a samurai and strap 2 swords on. That way the roughheads won't mug you. The tea master was bricking it, but he couldn't say no to the boss. He put on the heavy armor, strapped on 2 swords he didn't even know how to draw, and walked down the street shaking like a leaf. And wouldn't you know it, the exact thing he was worried about happened. While walking through a narrow alley, his scabbard accidentally bumped into a ronin, a masterless samurai. This bloke was known as a bloodthirsty mongrel, a massive unit with a face full of scars. The ronin spun around, eyes bulging. He took it as a massive insult. "Oi, you trying to mug me off? Draw your sword. I challenge you to a duel to the death, right here, right now." The tea master went pale as a ghost. He knew he was up the creek without a paddle. If he ran, he'd shame his lord's family name. But if he fought, he'd be dead in a heartbeat. He took a deep breath, bowed and said, "I accept your challenge, but do us a favor. Give me a few hours to finish my business. I'll come back here at sundown." The ronin smirked, reckoning the old geezer wanted to go home and write his will. He nodded. The tea master didn't run home. He bolted straight to the most famous dojo in the city to find a great swordmaster. When he found the swordmaster, he fell to his knees, sobbing. "Please, mate, teach me how to hold a sword. I don't expect to win. I just want to go out with a bit of dignity, like a proper samurai." The swordmaster looked at him and said, "I can't teach you sword fighting in a few hours, but show me how you make tea." The tea master calmed down. The moment tea was mentioned, his fear vanished. He sat down, lit the stove, rinsed the pot. Every movement was smooth, gentle, and laser-focused. In that moment, there was no death, no ronin, just the tea and the water. The swordmaster watched closely, then smiled and clapped his hands. "You little ripper! You don't need to learn how to die. You've already got the secret of swordsmanship sussed out." "The secret?" The tea master looked confused. "Too right," said the swordmaster. "When you face that ronin, just pretend he's a guest you're making tea for. Get yourself in the same headspace as when you're brewing a pot. Draw your sword, hold it high above your head, shut your eyes, and keep your mind as still as a mill pond. When you hear him scream, just chop down. You might die, but you'll take him with you." Sundown came around. The ronin was waiting in the alley, gripping his sharp blade, grinning like a shot fox. The tea master stepped up, but strangely enough, he wasn't shaking anymore. He looked at the ronin, but there wasn't a speck of fear in his eyes. He looked at the killer the same way he'd look at a kettle just about to boil. Slowly, taking his sweet time, he took off his outer coat, folded it into a perfect square, and placed it on the ground. He took off his paper fan and placed it neatly on top of the coat. Every move was dignified, precise, and incredibly relaxed. The Ronin started frowning. He felt something was off. Why was this old bloke so calm? The tea master drew his sword. He raised it high above his head. He closed his eyes, and he stood there, frozen. He completely forgot he was holding a sword. In his head, he was holding his bamboo tea whisk. He blended into the nothingness. No fear, no scheming, no hoping to survive. His silence filled the whole alleyway. The Ronin stood opposite him, and sweat started pouring off him. See, for a top-tier swordsman, the scariest thing isn't a loud scream or a fast blade. It's emptiness. He looked at the tea master and couldn't find a single opening. He felt like he was staring at a towering mountain or a bottomless pit. He started hallucinating that if he so much as twitched, the old man's sword would split him in two instantly. An invisible fear grabbed his heart and squeezed. Finally, unable to handle the pressure of that silence, the Ronin let out a terrified scream, threw his sword on the ground, and dropped to his knees. "I give up," he stammered. "I don't know what school of fighting you're from, mate, but your mental power beat me before I could even make a move. Please, spare my life." The tea master opened his eyes. He looked at the Ronin with a gentle smile. He sheathed his sword, picked up his coat and fan. He said softly, "I don't belong to any school. I just drink tea." So, my friend, you see, the blizzard is still raging out there, just like those angry Ronin wanting to barge into our lives. We usually reckon that to handle the storms, we need to be tougher, louder, more aggressive. But the tea master taught us a different lesson. The biggest strength isn't in a fist or a blade. The biggest strength is in the quietness of your soul. When you're in a sticky situation, when someone's barking in your face, or when work stress is piling up, don't try to draw your sword and fight back with anger. Take a deep breath. Go back to that quiet place inside you. Do your job with total focus, like you're brewing the best cuppa of your life. Your calm will be your sharpest weapon, and it'll make every storm back down. Anyway, it's getting late. The fire's nice and warm. Finish that tea and have a good kip tonight, safe in your own peace. Hooroo, mate. Sleep tight.